Hi bookish besties and welcome back, or if you're new here, welcome. I'm Leesh and you're reading with me. Here we talk about all things popular fiction, Kindle Unlimited, from thriller to mystery to romance and fantasy, basically all the books that I like reading. Today we will be going over a book tag book recommendation video. This is my first ever one and I got the inspiration from Steph Bohrer, who I've been watching. I think she was the first ever booktuber that I ever watched. So I'm pretty excited to be doing her book tag video. I hope you guys can stick around to the end and let's get straight into the book recommendations. So the first question is, what is a book that you tell all people that is your favorite? So that is a book that you feel is something that everyone will accept as your favorite. I don't know. It's just the book that you tell everybody is your favorite. And I find this one really difficult to answer. I mean, I've got an answer for it, but I don't really have a solid favorite book. I mean, there's a book that got me into reading, yes, fiction, which I talk about a lot. But when I say my favorite book, I usually go straight to Reminders of Him by Colleen Hoover. And that is because I feel like Colleen Hoover is a widely known author, probably the most popular fiction author at the present time. So if people ask me what my favorite book, it's that. And the link is that when I read it, I was pregnant with Ayla and I knew I was having a girl, and I felt really emotionally connected in a way that I just felt like mother, daughter, and just this pull, and nothing had really ever made me feel so emotional or like invested in the story, because that was just at the beginning, my fiction journey with book reading. So that is why I call it my favorite book. And it's also the book that I used when I spoke about what my favorite book was on my Instagram giveaway. So I have to use that book, right? This is such a funny book for me to answer. I can't believe it. The next question is a book that is your guilty pleasure. So this is a book that you might not necessarily admit to liking, but you kind of do. I haven't read a lot of dark romances, guys, okay? I didn't have much to talk about when I thought about this book. So it has to be Punk 57 by Penelope Douglas. I rated this one so low, but it's the one that lives rent-free in my head, honestly, and I feel like I shouldn't like it, but there's just a part of me that just can't let go of some of these spy scenes. I think about them constantly. So it's a guilty pleasure to think about those scenes. I don't know, Penelope Douglas, Birthday Girl, all of her books that I have read are just like guilty pleasure books. So Punk 57 takes the win. Oh my goodness, guys, a book that you don't like that everybody else does. Well, I could put a few on this list, but the one that has come up the most frequently for me is none other than Normal People. This book is the most frustrating book in the world, and I can't believe people like this. This is a book where nothing happens. You read it and you go, why did I waste my life on this? No character development, no change in the plot, no growth. You sit and you basically go through people's lives and what they do in their lives, and you follow a couple and you just think, could you at least have learned something from each other? No. And I get that that's the whole premise of this book, but I don't read to find out that there's no epiphanies. Like I don't have any like, oh, that made me feel something, because this made me just feel angry. And everybody loves it, and I wish I could get the 3 hours or 5 hours of my life back that I read this book in. And I kept reading because I thought it was going to get better, but it didn't. It just got worse. So I wish I could burn this book. No stars, 0 stars. Is that even a punishment? Like 1 star, whatever. Ugh. Calm down. It's funny because that's Steph's favorite book. The next question is a book you read the fastest. And if you watched my February reading wrap up, you would know the answer to this question already. The Do-Over by Lynn Painter. So this book I had read in one sitting, well, basically a sitting in both naps of the day of Ayla sleeping. I loved this book with my whole heart and soul. It was so bingeable. It was so fast paced, like in terms of like reading it. I don't know. You just have to get behind it and read it. It doesn't even matter if it's not Valentine's Day or February, like whatever, just read this book. Okay, so next up is a book that deserves more hype, and this is a Kindle Unlimited book that I've spoken about quite a few times on my channel already, and that is Next of Kin by Hannah Burnham Young. It's just such a sweet, adorable, like romance that I feel like more people should read that haven't read it. Wholesome, like just this feeling of family and found family and love, and I love this book so much and I wish it got more hype. So that's why it takes out this spot at this question. I'm actually the most excited about the answer to this question, and that is a book that is becoming a movie or TV series. So for me, I'm most hyped up about One True Loves by Taylor Jenkins Reid. Yes, a lot of people would say Daisy Jones and the Six here, and that is definitely a close second, but I wanted to surprise you all by saying One True Loves. I think the reason why I'm picking this one over Daisy Jones and the Six is because the characters that were picked to play the leads are what I would deem as something that I'd envisioned in my mind, whereas Daisy Jones and the Six, the characters, the actors that play those characters, I didn't see as the lead characters. So for me, this one I'm really excited about because I'm like, yeah, you hit the nail on the head, and I'm so excited. A book from a genre that you don't usually read. This one was actually quite hard for me to answer because I'm very much in my comfort zone when I read all of the time. So a book that I would recommend in a genre that I don't usually read will be going to The Cruel Prince. And the reason I picked this one is because I've never actually read a young adult fantasy book before, apart from Harry Potter, and I haven't read that since I was young. So for me, I loved it, and this is a book that I would highly recommend to anybody who is looking to dabble into a little bit of fantasy with, I don't know, a simpler plot, you could say. I know, I just loved it. I loved The Cruel Prince. So the next question is a book that deserves all the hype that it gets. This one was really hard for me. I could not pick a book, so I just picked one, and I literally just pulled it off. Like, you can see that my bookshelf is how it works, but I literally pulled it off the shelf and I'm like, yeah, okay, we'll give it to this one. Love and Other Words by Christina Lauren. So this one I think was one of the first ever books that I really hadn't heard about before it went viral on BookTube and Bookstagram. And so for me, when I was like, oh, this is probably the first book that I picked up because I hadn't heard anything about it, wasn't interested in it, picked it up because other people made me. And I actually binged it in a day, I'm pretty sure. And this is a very long fiction read. We're talking 400 pages, and I don't tend to steep over 300 for romance, and I sat there and I read it. I couldn't put it down. So this one definitely does deserve all the hype that it gets, and that's why I picked it for this question. Oh, I also forgot a book that you reread the most, and I kind of just skimmed this question because I have never reread a book. I know, let me know in the comments below if you are a pro non-rereading or pro rereading, because I just feel like there's too many books in the world to not reread. Does that make sense? Like, I feel like that I want to discover more. I can't go back. I just have to keep going forward. So if you're like me, let me know, and if you're not, let me know. So the next book is a book that you usually recommend when you're asked for a recommendation. This is actually pretty hard, and I usually ask the question in follow-up is, what books do you like to read, or what are you looking for in a book, so I can actually give you a proper recommendation. But if someone's brand new to reading fiction and they just want to come in and have a go and see how they like it, The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. I've actually gifted this book before and their dog ate it. literally. So yes, and it's a sweet little thank you note in there for me. But I recommend this book because it's just, I don't know, there's something that you can pull out of in real life, but it's fiction. Like, you feel connected to this story, this character, like Marilyn Monroe-esque. And then you get just pulled into that world. And I feel like if you like movies and you like old school Hollywood, I love it, you're gonna love this book. And yeah, that's why I recommend this one. I feel like it's approachable. Anyone can read it. I feel like it is just here for everybody, this book. And it can do no wrong, this book. Except one of my best friends doesn't like it, but that's okay, we'll not go there. Oh, the next question is a book with your favorite character. So this one for me was actually hard to also pick because I've never actually had a book boyfriend or felt like I just connected to a character as much as I would say that they're my favorite character of all time. But I'm gonna answer Better Than the Movies by Lynn Pater, and the character is Wes, because I just feel like he's just so lovable. And anytime I think about a character who has the most amazing qualities, especially for somebody so young, it always goes to Wes. He holds a place in my heart. And it's just gonna stay there. Okay, the next question is a book you wish you could live in. Now this one is quite controversial because I guess a lot of people would tend to lean towards the fantasy trope, but for me, I actually wish I could live in Daisy Jones and the Six. There's something about like this era of the 70s and rock and roll and music, and like I just wish that, like, not that I was Daisy, but I was like there in the band or something, because I don't know, I just feel like times have changed a lot and music isn't as it used to be. It's very different, and I don't know, I just want to go back. I just want to go back in time. I romanticize the past. For somebody who's always going forward, definitely romanticize the past with this book. Okay. This next question is such a tough one because I can't say that I've read any books that I've hated but ended up loving. I generally don't pick up books that I think I'm going to hate. Like, I just feel like there's too many books that I'm going to love that I don't pick up the ones that I'm going to hate. So this one, I'm actually going to say which book I was hoping this would be, and it wasn't, and that is Carrie Soto Is Back. I picked this up thinking I would hate it, hoping to love it, but I hated it like crazy. I've mentioned Taylor Jenkins Reid 3 other books in this video. Obviously, I recommend her books a lot, but just not this time. Like, I just wish this book wasn't written. I wish there was something else about the 90s, because I love the 90s. Like, do a Pamela Anderson or something like that. Like, not Carrie Soto, okay? Take it back. I'm sorry I didn't answer that question properly. The next question is a book that made you cry. So other than Reminders of Him, which I've already spoken about, I ugly girl cried in 1,000 Boy Kisses, which you can see on my first ever video. I left a photo. Go back and have a look. If you haven't already seen all the books that I read in 2022, I've got a photo of me ugly crying. Go check it out. You are going to cry in this book. I don't care who you are, you will cry. You would have to be a serial killer to not cry in this book. I'm just saying. Yeah, I just read a serial killer murder, so that's why I've got that in my head. I don't know. Anyway, so the next question is a book you wish you could reread for the first time. Now, this one was quite difficult also, but it's actually a recent read, and I don't know if that's controversial or not, but I Caught Up Thorns and Roses. I guess I'm just glad that I haven't read the whole series yet, because technically I haven't read it all for the first time. But when I read this was the first book that I actually had to stop and think, wow, I can never read this again. Like, I'm never going to be able to read this again for the first time. And there's like a chapter in here where you go, wow, that was a lot. And that just like made everything make sense up until this point. I don't know. I'm just like, wish I could reread that. So anyway, let me know in the comments below if you're going to answer any of these questions and where I can find the answers to them. So if you're going to do a video or a post on Instagram, I want to see it. And just any of these books you want to talk about, let me know in the comments below. And until then, subscribe if you like bookish content, like this video if you've enjoyed my opinions on said books, and I will see you in another video. Goodbye, bookish besties. Bye.